It was around 2 a.m. Outside, heavy rain was falling, streetlights flickering through the storm. Pause. The whole city was asleep. Everything felt silent. Suddenly, a terrifying scream broke the silence of the night. Pause. And then, nothing. Complete silence again. But this silence was not normal. It was the kind of silence that comes after something terrible has already happened. Minutes later, police sirens echoed through the streets. Blue and red lights reflected on the wet road. Inside that house, a lifeless body was lying on the floor. Pause. And beside it stood a young man, a son who had killed his own father. But this story is not just about a murder. By the time police arrived, the entire neighborhood had already gathered. Pause. People were standing outside, whispering in shock. Everyone was saying the same thing. We heard a scream, and then everything went silent. Pause. Inside the house, the air felt different. Cold, heavy, unnatural. A body was lying on the floor, surrounded by broken objects. Pause. But the most disturbing thing was not the scene. It was the boy. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was just standing there, completely still. No fear in his eyes. Just emptiness. When the police walked toward him, he didn't resist. Pause. Handcuffs were placed on him slowly, carefully, as if he already knew this moment would come. Pause. An officer asked, "Do you understand what you've done?" He stayed silent for a moment, then said quietly, "I do." Pause. But I had no other choice. That single sentence changed everything. The next morning, the news spread like wildfire. Pause. Breaking headlines everywhere. Son kills father. Social media exploded with reactions. People were shocked, angry, judgmental. Pause. Everyone had an opinion, but almost no one asked the real question. Why did it happen? When you look at old photos, everything seems perfect. Pause. A smiling family, dinner tables, happy moments. They look like a normal, loving family. Pause. But photos never tell the full story. Behind those smiles, something was slowly breaking apart. A neighbor once said, "Something always felt off." Pause. At night, there were occasional screams, and then sudden silence. Nobody ever stepped in. Everyone thought, "It's a private family matter." Pause. But silence doesn't solve problems. It only hides them. The father was a strict man. Pause. In public, he appeared normal, responsible. But at home, he was completely different. Control, anger, fear, everything had to go his way. Pause. And slowly, the home turned into a place of fear. Every day was the same. Pause. You are worthless. You can't do anything right. The words echoed through the house. The boy stayed silent, because speaking only made things worse. Pause. But silence doesn't protect you forever. It slowly destroys you from inside. His mother saw everything. Pause. But she couldn't stop it. She cried silently, hiding her pain. Her only thought was, as long as my son is safe, I can endure this. Pause. She sacrificed her voice to protect her child. As time passed, things got worse. Pause. Anger turned into destruction. Arguments turned into violence. The house no longer felt like a home. Pause. It felt like a place waiting to explode. The boy started breaking inside. Pause. At night, he would sit alone, thinking, how long can I survive this? Fear was there, but exhaustion was stronger. Pause. He wanted to escape, but he couldn't leave his mother behind. That night was different. Pause. Outside, a storm was building. Inside, tension was suffocating. Everything felt like it was leading towards something inevitable. Pause. Something was about to happen, but nobody knew what. Suddenly, the father shouted, "Tonight, I will end everything." Pause. This wasn't just anger anymore. It was a direct threat. The atmosphere inside the house became heavier than ever. Pause. There was no turning back now. The boy stood there, trembling. Pause. Two choices in front of him. Stay silent or act. His entire life was hanging on this moment. Pause. One decision that would change everything forever. And then it happened. Pause. No one saw everything clearly. Only sounds, struggle, and sudden silence. Everything stopped in a single moment. Pause. And in that silence, a dark truth was born. In the interrogation room, the light was harsh. Pause. The boy sat quietly, exhausted. The officer asked again, "Why did you do it?" Pause. After a long silence, he said, "Because he would have killed my mother." The room went silent. Piece by piece, the truth started coming together. Pause. The full picture became clear. This was not a planned murder. It was a desperate attempt to protect someone. Pause. A son, trying to save his mother, lost everything in the process. The courtroom was silent. Pause. Everyone was waiting for judgment. The law was clear. A murder is a crime. But this case was not simple. Pause. Law and truth were standing on different sides. His mother stood up crying. Pause. My son is not a criminal. He saved my life. That moment silenced the entire room. Pause. Because this wasn't logic. It was a mother's truth. In the end, there are no easy answers. Pause. Because some truths are not black or white. They exist in between, in a grey reality. Pause. If this story touched you, stay with us. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more real stories. Because the next story might be even more real.